powerful communication isn't just about being skillful. It's about making a choice to recognize that your leadership voice is a strategic tool. Founders are always going into conversations that are bigger than their britches. Spending time developing your unique point of view in the world, investing in your leadership narrative will help answer the question, how do I be more authentic?
I noticed that when I was wearing a hat in the John Common episode, that the hat highlights worked really well. Is that a true statement? I have a great hat. Can I wear this hat today?
Oh, yeah. Okay, that works.
What does it say,
Yes.
Compton?
How about that? Okay.
Yeah.
So
From ABM to PLG, from Medic to MedPick, the world of business is constantly evolving. We'll cover the who, what, where, when, why, and most importantly, how you get the transaction. I'm Matt Amundson, and he's Craig Rosenberg. Let's get started.
I got two fun facts for you guys. One is you guys are connected in a weird way because Matt's wife is a famed softball player and now coach. She coaches at Cal State East Bay.
Let's go.
Dia's daughter is like a top softball player in Northern California. And
She likes to smash and get paid.
Yeah. So that's...
Oh. Who does she play for?
Well, she plays for Warriors.
Okay.
With the McDonald's families. And me and Craig had a weird connection too, that we got introduced through an obscure connection, and then we were shooting the shit. Turns out that your son is besties with one of my daughter's teammates' little brother. What?
Whoa.
Yeah. The world's
so crazy. Yeah. So she wants to be a softballer, man. She wants to play for a Power 5 school. She wants to do all the things, you know? She's a student athlete, and, you know, trying to help her get there, being the best athlete mom I can.
That's great. Yeah. My wife played at UCLA. She won a couple national championships.
Let's go. That's
one of the greatest players in UCLA history. Yeah. I know you don't want to say it, but without a doubt.
That is.
Let's go.
That is true.
Yeah, AJ would like to play for UCLA, obviously.
She is memorialized at Easton Stadium in a few places.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
There's this amazing video of Claire in high school on the TV. Remember, who was she hitting off of, Matt? It was incredible. It was kind of...
Oh, it's what's his name? The sports...
Oh, Levitard. Levitard.
Yeah, Dan Levitard.
That was amazing.
Levitard.
All right.
Yeah.
One more fun fact for softball is the game has changed a lot since your wife was playing in college.
Sure.
Nigel Kennedy was pitching for Stanford and just went into the portal and secured herself a $1.2 million NIL deal, now is at Texas Tech or A&M. Just saying, like, my daughter's softball experience will be basically a semi-pro experience. She will not have a college experience. It's changing every year. It's more and more different. It's crazy.
Is a good fun fact.
Yeah. Is.
Not that she's going to be securing an NIL deal worth 1.4, but I'm just saying that the sport is growing, and so your wife, I hope she's enjoying that, you know, for her sport.
All right, next one.
Craig, sorry.
And then,
over to you, Craig.
We do have to do a business part of the show, but I have to ask you this. So you're the most energetic person that I've ever run into.
Holy shit, that's a compliment, because I tell you what, I'm 50 and I feel tired.
Really? It doesn't seem like it.
Yes. That's
Dude,
good.
Everything I've seen of you, right? Because I've been watching the videos, and then I met you.
Are you watching my walk and talks where I look junky and I'm just out walking my dog? You've been watching
junky,
those?
You're real. You're keeping,
I mean, I'm out, I'm out there in nature doing my nature thing.
So we're not going to have a problem with Dia getting excited for our podcast, even though she'd not met Matt, all this stuff. It's like she's going to come in hot. So that is a given. All right. So look, here's the deal. So here's how I met Dia. I had, I think, 1 or 2 referrals to her. And I was telling Dia, I don't do everyone sends me people all the time. And I'm like, I don't know. And then, but when the person that referred is really credible. Like, she never referred anybody. I have a couple people that send people to me all the time. I'm like, bro, you're going to have to cut this off. And then I went and watched the TED videos, and I'm like, oh my God, this woman's insane, incredible. And then I met her on the phone, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to do something with her. 2 weeks later, we bring her in for a workshop, which Matt was supposed to come to, but claims it wasn't on his calendar. And then Yeah.
Correct.
Well, we thought, Sam, you got to work on.
We didn't mean to leave you out, Matt. We
No,
didn't.
it's
I hope
okay.
you don't
I got
feel left
receipts.
out.
And
I got
people loved
receipts.
it. It was awesome. Yeah.
We had so much fun. It was super informal. We did, I think of it as like a lunch and learn or a brown bag. It was like that. And it was great.
So today's guest is Dia Bondi. First of all, it's an amazing name for a superstar. Like,
I had nothing to do with it, but thank
if
you.
you wanted to be a pop star, you'd be in really good shape. Like, you wouldn't have to do anything to your, A, your persona, or B, your name. Like, you're in good shape. Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
you are.
I feel locally famous.
You are. So Dia is an author, has a business, has a ton of content that everyone should check out. And it's really like around founder executives and how they communicate. But the methodology, when you watch or listen to her, it applies to a lot of different use cases. And that's what's amazing. But like, if I had to just sum it up in one word, we're talking about how, like, you advise founders and lead executives on how they could communicate internally and externally in a compelling way. Is that easy?
You
Okay.
nailed it.
As you guys can already tell, when you meet her, you're like, well, she doesn't need any training. I mean, this is like unbelievable. Like, I don't know if you do like energy infusions for the founders.
I don't know. You need to bring those expectations way down so that I can show off. Like the more you lift them up, the more work you're making me do around here.
So anyway, I'm really, really excited to have you, Dia, on the show. It's really cool. And I know that you're going to bring it. We already have, even in our 15 minutes of chit chat, is like worthy of being produced on the pod. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Well, listen, it was an easy yes for me when you invited me, knowing that, this is all about go to market and, getting traction.
Yeah.
Is that right? I've watched a few of the episodes and I've talked to your group of advisors and in and around your platform role. Yes, I want to help founders and executives speak powerfully, be compelling, but it's sort of like, for what? And for me, it's so that they can align and activate people around what they're doing, so that they can, secure decisions and resources they need to move their businesses, their initiatives forward. It's not just for the sake of looking great and smelling great. It's about moving things forward.
We have this question that we start every show with, but Matt, I think it was last show, jumped in and said it created great content. You did. It's actually, I have it on tape. Yeah.
Oh.
It was great. And so I'm gonna try it on Dia, which is like, before we start like getting in the meat, like, can you, like, what's this, like, I would love to hear a story, because her stories were amazing in the workshop, but like where you took an executive who had no hope on the communication front and like you turned him or her around, and what did it become? And if you have any fun stories around that, I'd love to start with that. See, Matt, I learned from you on that last.
It's great. Look at this. Growth.
Oh man. So I've been doing this for about 22 years, and I've clocked that I've executed probably upwards of 8,000 private coaching sessions. And so whether that's in event prep or helping people with a bid, I helped Rio de Janeiro win the right to host the 2016 Olympics. And that was like a lot of leaders that needed to do, very specific, highly controlled, produced kind of leadership communications moments. Worked on product launches for big SaaS companies. I worked with somebody who's recently stepped up into their role and needs to like establish their voice in their domain, in their market. I mean, there's so many to choose from. But one I could pick that happened year before last. This isn't a founder, but I got to say that I do think when I work with executives internally, I like to treat them like founders of their own initiatives. Like they're having to like,
Absolutely.
And even VCs that work with me who are like putting together their own fund. I mean, they're an entrepreneur for their own fund. Yeah. They're fundraising. They're in conversations and negotiations all day long. Anyway, actually, this guy, his manager, I'm going to say his manager, he was a senior guy, VP level, but his sideways manager reached out to me and said, hey, we have a really big stage moment coming up for a large product launch at a very significant corporate event that will eventually make its way on a tour. And this leader is is struggling to establish his voice internally. We're going to use this external facing moment as a way for him to really catalyze his voice on a stage that is outward facing, but will be symbolic for helping him establish his voice internally. And so we worked together it was a small sprint, right? And that day when he got up on stage, he just absolutely slayed. Like, so completely, absolutely slayed that the hosting CEO of that event, who is somebody everybody would recognize their name, that name is on buildings all over the country, all over this country, said, "Hey, who is that guy?"
No way.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, it's such a win, not because like, oh, he did a great job and he had, he really executed well in that moment. But what was more important is like what it meant for the long tail of his career.
Yeah.
Because it's when you raise your visibility in a way that makes people go, oh, he executed that script flawlessly. But more importantly, wow, I really understand. I got a sense of who this person is. That's the two great tastes that taste great together. Now, I know that a lot of folks who might be listening who are, founders or new executives might not have moments where they're having to do an 11-minute, super tightly scripted product launch, product demo, high performance sort of, in the round, big fancy speaking moment. But the idea still applies that leaders and founders are successful when they can tell the great story they need to tell about their product, about their venture, but they also can do it in a way where they have a distinct voice that people see that this leader has a point of view in the world, has a presence in the world, and they're lending their voice to their venture in a way that makes them both fly.
Amazing.
Does that answer your question, Craig?
Yeah. What was the unlock for him? How did you, in a couple weeks, you got him to where he slayed it? Yeah.
The short answer is my methodology. But
that was not a setup to everyone who's listening. I was actually just
no. There's a point in a lot of founders' lives. I talked a little bit about this in our short brown bag that we did with your team. We talked about like founder unrest, which is this stage, or leader unrest, this stage where like all of a sudden founders and leaders are like having product marketers write their talking points for them at product launches, where they're going into sales conversations or founder-led sales conversations where they have their team with them and their team prepared sort of the arc of the product demo. Like, they're not the ones doing everything themselves in their own words, right? And that's a struggle and a necessary role to play, where you let your teams do what they do best. And then bring, the stories that need to be told in the world to you as a founder, and then for you to be able to speak them in a way that's aligned to who you actually are. Like, so Craig, to answer your question, like the unlock is putting the script down for a little bit and not worrying about like, oh my God, my team wrote this. It doesn't sound at all like me. Oh no. How do I change the script so it sounds more like you, more like me? Is to put it down and first ask the question, okay, who are you? Like, what are you actually bringing to the table? What are your unique points of view in the world around this domain? What is your role in the world that you see that you're bringing into every single engagement, and I'm not talking about your job. I'm talking like, are you a pioneer? Are you a rebel? Are you a systems person? Are you like, how do you think about what you bring to the table no matter what you're working on? And I have a way to like articulate that for a founder. Then we look at the script and go, okay, where are there opportunities for us to tell a unique story that brings that to life? Where is an opportunity for us to help you introduce yourself to the room in a way that is aligned to who you actually are? Because every script that's written is not completely word for word tight. We want to find the places where those two things intersect, and putting the script down for a little while first is the way to do it.
Wow. Love that. So one of the first, all right, hold on. I got to ask the big question, but one thing that I thought, because we did this in the brown bag too. All right. So now I've changed my mind. I want to talk about this. One of the things.
Okay.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. One of the things that I thought was cool in the brown bag that was hard was this idea of figuring out who you are. It sounds so, you know what I mean? But like,
I know it sounds so mushy, right?
It changed. It helped. Like, and then we did some other exercises, and I was like, I had this thing where I was like thinking about like, who am I? You know, and I think, you know, as you were talking about that story there, I'm like, I'm sure one of the big things was like, well, who are you, or who do you want to be? And sort of thinking about that, because I had that experience where I was like, wow, like you know what I mean? Like, and then once from there, you can build on that, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of funny, you know, I say in the world that like I help leaders and founders find their voice. And that's not actually what I have always thought of what I do is, but founders and leaders, after they work with me, they're like, oh my God, I found my voice. Again, feels super mushy, right? And what you're pointing to, like, who am I? A little distinction in the work that I do is that I'm actually not as interested in who you want to be. I'm interested in who you actually are. So people think about like finding your voice as if it's some mystery that's lost somewhere and you need to, you need to uncover.
Matt wrote a movie script on that where they went through the jungles of the Amazon trying to find their voice. Yeah, I get it. We get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of them. The other one was on competitive ultimate frisbee.
Oh, good.
I'm still in development.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, so have they been greenlit or what, man? When do I get to see them?
And then I got the Netflix deal. We'll see.
Okay, all right. I'll keep my ears open. So we specifically did that exercise where we identify provenance, what I call provenance, which is like your origin story, right? Not in terms of, so many founders and leaders are like, oh, let me introduce myself. And then they just take you through a march through time. Like, I graduated MIT and I spent 6 years at McKinsey, and then I launched these 2 products and generated this. It's like, it's just a march through your badgeable events, right? And it's fine. Mm-hmm. It's fine. And it tells me nothing about who you are, really. Because everybody else went to MIT, man. We all worked at McKinsey for 10 years. Like, yeah. I mean, not really, but everyone is... like at a certain level, everyone does awesome stuff. We don't doubt you do awesome stuff. So the exercise was around like identifying what your core drivers were that led you to do all that work. And then when you can share with us who you are, like, here's what drives me, and that's what led me to do all this stuff. It's a great way of building context, the context that all of those accomplishments came out of. So we get like what you did, but also why you did it and who you are a little bit. Now, I will say, see, Craig, you asked me these questions. I got too much to say about it. The thing that's fun about this is that it's not inventing anything. All of the ways that I work, when I ask like, who are you? We go back into your own past, your own recent history. It's all harvested from your actual experience. It's all things that are resonant and true you can point to and go, yeah, that's totally me. Exactly. And they are very real. They are a little bit aspirational because we're not always at our highest and best, we're not always operating at our optimal, but we draw on that part of your experience so we can just name and claim what you already are. We're not creating something like, in the future, I want to be.
Got it.
No.
So I have a question. When I think a lot of people struggle with when you ask them who they are, them just kind of not rifling off their resume. I was here, yep. I sold this company to this company, yep. I was here, I took something public. That tends to be, I think, what people think other people want to hear. Right? Yeah. Those are your sort of the epaulettes and the badges on your uniform, right? They're what you get for being so successful.
Badgeable events, I call them. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you get away from that and into more of what you're talking about? And sort of use that story, I guess, instead of being a list of bullets, to be something that feels more like a narrative and it's more compelling.
I love it that you use the word narrative, because I think about all of this as like your leadership narrative. And to be fair, when I start with, I ask the question like, who are you when I work with people? I don't really, I'm asking that to myself. It's not how it shows up in the conversation because it's too big and mysterious of a question. I instead walk people through exercises where they go, oh my God, that's so me. I've never said it like that before, but that's so me. Sure. So I will say, number one, it's about making a decision to show yourself in that way. You just have to decide, I don't want to be in the business of transactional communication anymore, where like I show you my badges and you approve. You know, I
Yeah.
want to be in the business of like, let me show you something that is important to me about me that helps us connect on a human level. And then you're going to see those badgeable events as just like, oh, that makes so much sense. You graduated from MIT and then did TJ. It's more like just evidence at that point, you know, of who you are. So one, it's a decision. Like there is also a moment in every leader founder's journey where they just have to recognize that powerful communication isn't just about being skillful. It's about making a choice it's about making a choice to recognize that your leadership voice is a strategic tool for you to make. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, my next question was going to be what does that then unlock, right? Like how does that change your perception amongst peers, amongst potential investors, amongst people that you might be selling your product to, or just overall people that you're trying to influence?
Well, selfishly for the client or for the founder or leader I'm working with, they get to get that elusive thing everyone wants more of, which I don't like to deal in very much, but it is an outcome, which is confidence. Period. Like founders are always going into conversations that are bigger than their britches. That's kind of like a job requirement. So they get some confidence because they sort of like go, oh, that's so me. They can go into something going, I'm going to tell this story because it is so me and I know exactly why I'm telling it. So there's a confidence level there. Now, what that means in terms of business is it can show up in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to give you two examples. I think I shared this one in our workshop, Craig, so sorry you have to hear it again. But one of my clients, Chatham House Rules, by the way, everybody. I had a client who was very young looking. And also all of her advisors told her regularly, like, you need to tell your founder story. You need to tell your origin story more. And she was like, it's so gross when I do that. Because it just felt, to her, she was like, it feels like I'm bragging. It feels so weird. And, you know, I just don't like it. And so every time I start to describe all this stuff that looks fancy to other people that, you know, everybody in my world tells me I should give myself more credit for, I just stop myself because it feels so gross. And to her, she's like, of course I did fill in the blank. Of course I did all those things because it was just what I wanted to do. What's the biggie, you know? Meanwhile, she's suffering because she's looking chronically 12 years old. And she's not. And she's amazing, you know?
Oh.
So she's amazing.
Coming over the top on that one. I like it. Damn.
Yeah, I like it.
So for her, like her Providence story, making a decision to share a little bit more about who she was, gave her a more contextualized version of being able to tell her story and brag on herself, which made the people that would perceive her as young as an inexperienced, it gave her a way to blow their minds. Yeah, and when she blows their minds, they then shift their perspective and go, wait, there's something here. Tell me more about what you're building.
Yeah.
So for her, it was a way to not get so written off.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
We called those depth charges. We called those depth charges, that she could drop some of her braggables as a very young looking, you know, entrepreneur. And people would go, I'm sorry, what? You know, they just kind of shifted the ocean floor for them a little bit, like, roar, you know? So for her, that's about, here's another example. Do you want another one?
Yeah.
I have a client who was going into conversations with a potential, I have to anonymize this, with a potential partner / fellow traveler. And his default, like so many founders, was to go in with like, I'm going to bring my pitch deck because, you know, it has a product demo in there. It, you know, it talks about the team. Like, it's just, they're living in their pitch decks forever, right? And I was like, no. So we did a part of what I think of developing a leadership narrative called point of view and playbook to identify really what do you talk about in the world outside of your venture? Like, what subject do you care about? And we nailed that for him. And he realized, like, oh, that's actually the story I need to go in, because I needed to go in not as with my pitch deck, which says implicitly, I am pitching you because you have something that I want, and I'm doing my darndest to help you want what I have. Versus leave my pitch deck behind, Craig, you're laughing. What's the smile?
I love your stories. They're just awesome. And I also did a middle finger emoji to someone in the office who's never received one. And I'm just enjoying that. Is that bad?
Are you enjoying yourself?
Jesus.
Sorry, man.
You got the right outfit for it.
Go ahead, Dia.
So instead, they left their pitch deck behind and went in to have a CEO to CEO conversation about the future of the domain and what he saw was most important as they built out the future of their product portfolio. Not like leave the pitch deck behind because they needed to come in on equal power ground. So when you articulate that for yourself, that means you're shifting the nature and the power dynamics of the conversations you're having. So that answers the question. Another answer to the like, what do you get? What does it unlock for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like anytime someone can go in and tell like a great story without a deck, without, sort of visual support behind them, those are the things that really rock your world. Well, you know what I mean? Those are the things where you're like, wow,
yes.
that is an incredible story.
Understanding that this founder had done all his raises without a deck, meaning he'd sent the deck ahead of time and then he just had a conversation.
Yeah.
But my point is, it's still the same damn story. Well, let me explain to you what problem we're solving in the world. Let me, here are the ways we're doing it. Here's what our whatever.
You know what? I have two things.
Yeah.
One, and I have a very tactical question.
Do you actually have two this time? Because you didn't land the plane
What?
the first time.
Did I not?
You didn't land the plane. You had two fun facts.
No,
you only
no.
got through one.
Maybe I'm too old to say this, but I feel like I'm in the middle of an Odd Couple episode. Do you remember that show?
Oh,
Are you
that's
kidding?
every episode.
That is a great show. They got to
best,
redo
yeah.
it with I love that show.
Craig is such a Felix Leiter.
That show is ripe for a
for
redo.
sure.
Like I'm not too hot on on all the redos that are happening right now in Hollywood and beyond, but like I might get down with a little Odd Couple, revisit.
It's timeless. It's timeless.
Yeah, a big part of the inspiration for this show.
By the way,
well.
Matt, maybe you pick up that instead of the Ultimate Frisbee show you want to go on Netflix. Just the saying. I mean, it's just a thing. But okay, so I didn't land the plane last time. All right. So one is just a point to make, which is Matt and I have, we work with a lot of young companies, right? I'm at a venture firm that does Series A investing.
Yeah.
Matt actually did executive in residence work for me for like 8 months, and then he advises folks on the side. And we both spent a lot of time, I'd say this last year, Matt, like with the founder. The founder is so important.
Yeah.
And we've done some shows about how they write and how they do LinkedIn and how they play. This is about this is like how you, not just how you communicate, but how you puff your, like how you, like, this is the ultimate element of founder brand that we hadn't talked about. So I just want to say, as you were talking, I was thinking about that. I'm like, because, Matt's a CMO and like, he talks about founder brand all the time with folks. And like, as you were talking, I'm like, this is like a key part of founder brand is like, and we need to win and to differentiate today. This world is so crowded and we're in tech. Like we need the founder to reach trusted superstar status as fast as possible. And how they, it's one thing to be like, ooh, my PR person got me in front of whatever show there. We have to think about like the world of Dia here and how you communicate. And that's big part of like, that's a differentiator. That's like key to what, a guy like Matt is going to try to do when he's putting together his plan to build the brand.
You're so spot on around the found. I think of founder voice as something you lend to your venture. You're not just a bullhorn for your venture, And when you can kind of let yourself distinguish yourself from your venture, but then power your venture with your voice, like that's really powerful. And so I have this 4-part framework, the stuff we're talking about, 4-part framework that helps founders figure out what matters to them, what they like, what they're building, but what they're really building, and what their origin story is in a way that helps people contextualize all their accomplishments and make them go, oh, I see why you're working on this. And when I think founders spend time building the foundation of their leadership narrative as part of an effort to develop their founder brand. Then when they have PR leaders or PR folks working with them to help them put them on the road for their first product launch or whatever, they've got substance underneath these conversations. I don't care that you got booked into 25 podcasts if what you're talking about is just anemic.
By the way, did you train Howard Schultz? Isn't that his name? The guy who runs Starbucks? Oh, so I just listened to his pod on Acquired. And like, dude, he follows all your rules. He talks about growing up in the projects, and like, he talks about like the origin story is so core, and you're just sitting there, you're just gripped, and it influences. Like you can see when he's talking about it, he's like, look, he's talking about employees. Like, look, I grew up in the projects, and I grew up ashamed. My dad was I forget what he was, and like. He's like, and he felt ashamed, and like But it's not the accomplishments that stand out for you. What I'm hearing you say is that it's his experience talking about what drove him is what's important, and knowing what drives people. That's what makes you connect with them, and that's why that origin story, not in terms of braggables and badgeables, but the context in which your braggables and badgeables happened, and what sort of drove them to occur is what is so interesting about an individual founder. That's amazing. All right, ready? Here's number 2. Very tactical. Why, for the love of God, Matt and Dia, do CEOs, founders, presenters still try to do demos at their big events on stage? It is a 75% failure rate. Is that true or not? Am I crazy?
Oh, I work with clients that they've got a no-fail approach.
What do you mean?
The demos are not live. They're recorded. Yeah. The live demos you're very right. They're dangerous. They're risky. They have to they make a mess. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Matt? Like, why do people do that? Why do we still do that?
Because I think it's the right thing, but just watching it blue screen in front of a live audience is
it
always breaks. And it's always so disappointing to see it happen, but also awesome.
Actually, the reaction of the presenter, that's a good tell for what we got, how they treat their employees too.
Interesting, right? Did they blow somebody up right there into the mic or not? 100%.
I told you, Dave, this wouldn't work.
Yeah. Oh, I have to do everything myself around here.
Yeah, you got to do the pre-recorded. Yeah. You just have to.
You do. And the point is, it's better for you. I think it's better to have people want to see it live. Oh, we got to do it live. It shows the power of it. I'm like, you know what? Give us a pre-recorded demo of it with a really nice voiceover that you're maybe even doing live, and then invite people to go touch and play with it at a booth somewhere. Like, then you're having a more meaningful conversation. You might be converting those conversations into real customer conversations where people can, it's way less of a deal for it to blue screen, when you're all standing around a demo help desk and go like, oh, actually that happens, and here's why, put context around why something might crash. Like, it feels, and here's the thing, these big stage moments, they're very expensive.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about expensive meetings for a second for founders and CEOs?
Of course we can.
Yeah.
So one of the things that really bugs me is a terrible all hands.
Ooh, let's go. What do we got? What do we got?
Yeah, I like this. Let's double click.
Let's unpack this. Hold on. Let us use all the tech phrases. Yeah. Let's unpack this. Let's workshop this.
Let's workshop this.
Yeah, I'd like to circle back to this.
Yeah, I know we put a pin in it last week. I think it's time that we...
Oh, yeah.
All right, go for it.
So everybody, listen. There is a moment where your sort of two things, where your weekly meetings that used to be you and all your product folks sitting around tables, checking in on stuff, doing a quick stand-up, turns into 65, 85, 150, 200 people on a call every Friday at 1:00. Okay. And there's two things that a founder needs to notice. When it's time for you to stop being the MC, and it's time for you to show up as a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
You let your chief of staff, and this might be controversial. I'd be curious. Tell us in the comments below. The issue around aligning the way your voice shows up with the role expectations that you're now grappling with. There's a moment at which point your voice needs to remain in a position and be positioned as authority. And a lot of founders struggle against this because they're like, but I'm approachable. I'm like, got it. But also you need to show up as a CEO. Your team needs you to show up as the CEO. So you find somebody else to run people's slides. You find somebody else to be the MC, to do all of the tactical stuff. And you show up at the status that matches the role that people need you to play in the world. That's number one.
I love it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Just this is part of that founder unrest stuff I was talking about. That founder unrest when they start to notice like something needs to change, but I don't know what it is. I'm showing up as the MC, but my board is telling me, and now I have an executive team around me. They're kind of like winking at me like I need to have a little more authority around here, but I'm still advancing the slides all by myself. So, so notice when that's happening for you. And then secondly, let's just notice how expensive your all hands are. And are you actually using that time wisely? I work with so many founders who buck against the idea of starting to put a real strategic approach around how they run their all hands. Not just as like, hey, welcome our new staff people and let's celebrate some birthdays and let's play a little internet game together. I get it that virtually it's an opportunity for everyone to connect, but also this is precious, expensive time where you have the opportunity for your product leads to tell a story about the roadmap, where you have folks from your operations side to talk about what collaboration tools look like, how we can move faster together. You have so much opportunity to set the context and use that as an alignment tool. And I worked with a founder last year where we were talking about how crappy their all hands were. And I was like, let's just calculate. Let's just what my husband would call butt wing it. Let's just butt wing how much that meeting costs every week.
By the way, butt wing.
It's like
love that.
Butt wing. Yeah, he's an operations guy and he loves a good spreadsheet where he just kind of butt wings it and it's like, man, it'd probably be 200 grand. But we butt winged it and it, we were like, I can't remember, but it was something like $220,000 for that hour.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
So I'm just saying there's a point at which your leadership voice is really, really critical and very important to be used wisely in the time that you have where you're bringing everyone together. And to recognize that if it's not just a waste of everybody's time, if you put a dollar value against those meetings, I hope you'll surprise yourself.
That was awesome. And I just got an alert. I set my timer so I know where we are. We were running out of time and I did not even ask the big question, Matt.
Time flies when I'm having fun with you guys.
I've been having a blast.
Right
Matt,
yeah, this is incredible.
Let's just dig in with Matt. Let's put a pin in it. Matt, has this been,
please.
Has this been awesome for you as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's okay if it were me.
Everything you said about Dia is proven to be true.
I like being valid. Thank you for that validation. Normally I don't get it. Dia just says a heads up.
Feels good to be right.
Okay. So,
my girlfriend always says, do you want to be right or you want to be happy? I'm like, can I have
being
both?
Being right makes me happy.
Being right makes me happy.
I gotta say that. Yeah, man. That seems like a question where I want both. That's an and. All right. So the big question we ask everyone is, what's something that the market thinks that they're doing right? Could be anything, approach, methodology, tactics, etc. And they're actually wrong. And, what is that and what should they do differently? How would you answer that?
Can I give you two?
Oh, well, hold on.
Yeah.
I just want to make clear that you can give us two, but you have to, quote unquote, land the plane. For Matt, it's very important.
I'll try to do that.
He just texted me. Make sure she lands the plane.
Numero uno. I wrote this book right here. See that? It's called Ask Like an Auctioneer, How to Ask for More and Get It.
Where's mine?
It's a crazy book and a TEDx, and it's about helping people ask for more and get it using everything I learned from my impact hobby of fundraising auctioneering for women-led nonprofits that I picked up in my 40s, like just for fun. And I was learning a lot, and I put it in a book. Anyway, so the one thing people they think doing right is that they design their asks in order to get a yes. How much do you think I can get? Well, I don't know. I'm going to ask for that. And then when they get a yes, they're excited about it. The how we should be doing it is designing asks in order to get a no and then negotiate down, and it will yield more. That's one. Don't believe me? Watch my TED Talk.
I love that one. And by the way, for salespeople, watch that. Yeah, love that. Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is assuming that being compelling as a communicator is about skill and polish. Thinking about communications as a skill acquisition, and that's it. When it is about taking on your own leadership communications as a strategic tool in your leadership, and a strike point for your leadership so that you can have more impact on the audiences that matter to you.
I love that.
We assume communications is about skills, and it's about so much more.
So, by the way, I'm unpolished. Is that bad?
No, it's part of your. I'll talk about
Yeah.
brand. This is actually an excellent point. It is some of the most compelling communicators I've worked with are introverts, are quiet and subtle, but are extremely compelling, are silly and approachable, but have big ideas that contrast their approachability. They are not the motivational speaker archetype that people put in their minds when they think about being a compelling communicator.
Love that. Matt, do you think I'm polished or?
Yeah.
Oh, all right,
No.
good. But you're right. I thought when she was talking about the silly person, that was me. But yeah. No, that's interesting. I
don't think you're silly. I think that you're unpolished and a lot of fun to be around, and that makes you very approachable, especially like you were working as a analyst, which means that you should normally, and with all due respect to analysts, be the least compelling person in the room. And now you work at a venture fund, and so like you should be a little bit scary, and you're not, right? So like you create this kind of warm entry point at Topo, or you created this warm entry point at Topo, and now you do that at scale, which I think is perfect because you want the portfolio companies to engage with you, and sometimes they can be a little intimidated.
This is what my son would call facts.
Yes, that's right. Another one. Let's put that one in, Sam. I love when people do. It's all the young folks. I love when they drop that and they just say facts. That just makes me
facts.
so happy, honestly.
So, just to add to that, like I think it's not about being one way or another. It's about taking who we authentically are and then expanding our range of how we show up in different situations so that when we recognize we need to bring more authority to the moment, we can do that. When we need to bring more warmth and approachability, we can do that. When we can make choices in content about the types of stories we tell to set up a product walkthrough or to introduce ourselves to the world, like being sensitive to the context of the moment and then just growing range without having to abandon ourselves at the same time.
Damn. Good.
Good.
Oh,
Good
Lord.
grief.
Hey, I got one for you guys. I just got to get out before we get out. Based on everything we've heard today, and Sam, you can jump into, although your sound, even though you're our producer, can sometimes be ridiculous. No offense.
None taken.
But yes, that was. Oh, it worked great today. You're good.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
Huh.
So good.
Because I brought
So
up as Dia was talking, and I did the brown bag too. So I'm like, and I have the book and all that kind of stuff. So I'm.
Showed up late, but he did
That's
show
true.
up.
That was rude.
Yeah, that's
traffic
typical.
was bad.
No.
I do. I like to make an entrance. I came in hot too. You got to admit. I was like, I pretended
was
like
great.
there was
It
nothing
was great.
wrong. I learned that from.
It was great. I was there he is. Ooh, things feel different now.
So, I just told you, like, based on everything Dia told me, like, I literally thought of Starbucks founder and CEO Howard Schultz. Like, and if you've ever seen him speak, he does no scripts. No visuals. He just comes from the heart, and like it's because like what Dia was talking about, like that, or he's just embraced the origin story and who he is, and it just comes out in everything. So like, who would you like? Who's a founder based on everything you guys heard, or CEO that you think is one of the best communicators out there with some of the fundamentals we just learned today? Sam, you opened your mouth.
That's all you.
Sam
Matt.
opened his mouth though. Like what?
I did.
Oh,
Fair
he
enough.
did? Don't
open your mouth.
I'll say Jensen Huang from NVIDIA. I think does a really good job of being himself and letting that, who he is come through. He did a really good interview with the Acquired podcast as well. And I think that with one of the earlier points about not being polished, I think not being polished is also how you stand out from AI more and make a bigger impact there.
That's cool. See, Sam, that was great. And I think, Dia, one of the things that, like, from when you do embrace like who you are and the provenance and these things, like the authenticity comes out in a way that is, I mean, it's like you're basically blasting authenticity when you do that, because you're just really real to yourself. And I think that's, as Sam was talking, I'm like, that guy could come out and say anything right now. I mean, like, but he's, because of that way that he communicates, he comes off as authentic, considering he's basically supporting, Terminator 5, coming out. And so that's a great example, Sam.
Great example. And I'll just say that, for founders who might be listening, who are getting feedback from, their board, their executive team, their chief of staff, the folks and their peers in their groups that just say, hey man, just be authentic. And they feel like, what does that mean? You're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like that you get that feedback and it does not help. It does not help. So spending time developing your unique point of view in the world, investing in your leadership narrative will help answer the question, how do I be more authentic? Because you'll have an actual strategy in place for yourself to help you come forward.
Awesome. All right, Matt, what do you got?
Well, are we talking inside the bubble or are we talking outside the bubble? Like inside the Silicon Valley bubble?
It could be any. I mean, I use Starbucks. I mean, was that outside? That was outside.
That's true.
I came out of the. What are you talking about?
I mean,
I came out of the
always
gate outside the bubble. Jeez, yeah. Let's go.
Well, that was your example, and then you asked us for our own examples. It is what it is.
You know
All
what,
right,
Matt?
so,
whatever your answer is, we're gonna find you right. We're gonna support you.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
All right. Well, I love Nick because whenever Nick Mehta is presenting, like it's just he just does it so well for like a sort of inside the valley, like they, not this gigantic global organization, but something that's like what I would call a mid-sized business. And he's such a great presenter. He's so compelling, both in appearance and the way he presents, the decks that he uses, and he does use decks, but like it's not a PowerPoint. It's incredible. It's like a little show that he puts on every time.
That's a great one.
So he's my inside.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
And by the way, he's got 2 mentions on the show, and he hasn't.
It's been
Nick,
more than that.
We've had 2 mentions on the show. Oh, bro, we need a share on that. Anyway, okay, that is actually a really good one. Like his outfits even are just like it feels like he keeps evolving into like Dia's ideal, right? Because like his kicks, remember at the Go-to-Market Summit 2 years ago, like what's up with that, like glitter and shit, like it was nuts, man.
But it worked. It was like over the top, but it wasn't. I don't know how you skate that line. It's just he does it so well.
What about outside the bubble?
Who was that Goldman Sachs CEO that was DJing all the time? I love that dude. What was his name? Dave Solomon.
Yeah, that's
right?
amazing. That's
just like in the Excess era, this guy's just like DJing at nightclubs and then just being the CEO of Goldman Sachs by day. It was amazing.
Man, I love that. All right, Dia, who's yours? One of your clients, I'm sure.
I don't know. I kind of want to plead the fifth because I
all clients.
8,000 coaching sessions by Dia, by the way.
So I am so old at this point, but I will say that like I love a good sneak attack, meaning I love it. I love it when a founder shows up in a way that you don't expect. And I'm not talking about gimmicks and, glitter and DJing. I'm talking about when your first experience maybe or assumption of them is one way and they end up blowing your minds. Like I love that. And that's not about being demonstrative or really, taking up space in the room. It's so much more about the example I gave earlier about the client who, was perceived as being very young, but was actually very experienced, and the way that she could drop depth charges in the room that made us go, I'm sorry, what? I just love that.
That's great.
Yeah.
See, that was a great answer right there. Yeah.
Thank
So, all right. By the way, well, no. All right. I can't send us down another rabbit hole. But let's just all compliment Sam. Sam, great job. Sound was in.
Hey, great job.
Example.
Really great job.
You did great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
Thank
I
you.
like your polo
I
shirt.
feel supported.
Yeah. You're looking good, kid. So by the way, I called Matt to go, dude, we're about to have a show we haven't had before, and you delivered that, Dia, and I'm just glad.
Thank you.
It
That
is
is
true.
true.
That was so interesting. I just feel like, man, like once again, I sort of leave this going, I can do better. This can help so many other people. It's like you're a CEO, founder, coach, but in many ways, this is like career coach stuff. Like anybody who's building their career should go through the process of their provenance and their the backstory and who they are today changes how you interview, how you interact with your managers, how you interact with your team. And I just think that's really cool. And that's one of the reasons why I think you're awesome. I'm so glad we had you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I have to say I'm rooting for all the founders who are listening today, just rooting for you hardcore, because I haven't done it, but I witness how difficult it is for all of you to level up as you go through your journey and face massive rejection constantly, and products that are breaking and teams that are crumbling, and bringing new talent in, and phasing old processes out. It's a struggle, and I just have a lot of respect for founders, and anything I can do to help them be successful and stay in their own skin while they're doing it feels like a win to me.
Bam. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's the transaction. That was killer.
That is the
All right.
transaction.
You know what, Dia? That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Transaction. Craig and I really appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to the end. What are you actually doing here? For show notes and other episodes, please visit us at thetransactionpod.com. Like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you get your podcast from. Either you have walked away from your podcast device, or this is playing somewhere in the background. Someone in your house would really like for you to shut this off now.